Okay, looks like a lot of you still have your hands up. We'll get started with Coach Grinch. We'll start with, let's go to Garen Emig.
Hey, Alex, you doing all right?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. You talked a month ago about the time you guys got going in the spring about the consistency. That's I think you said about everything for you right now, seeing it consistently. Do you feel better about that 1 month later as you close the spring down, or is that a to be continued when the games begin again next fall?
And that's the rub with that word, right?
Yeah.
It's something that has to, every play we made this spring, we got to do again in fall camp, and then continue on that over the course of the season. But I do. I think if you looked at the 15 days, I think you see a more consistent unit. I don't think we gave up days. Meaning that you get an 11 on 11 period, and all of a sudden we can't function, and that's obviously a pretty low bar. But so from that standpoint, I do. If you looked at kind of we track production and guys making plays in the backfield, for instance, or getting hands on footballs and stuff like that, you see day in and day out. There weren't major gaps in from a production standpoint, or all of a sudden the loaf count explodes all of a sudden on a practice 7. You're sitting there like, how can we let that happen? So, no, I think it's a more consistent unit and something that, again, we're going to look to continue.
Let's go to Ryan Aber.
Yeah, Alex, good talking to you again. How do you feel about how your secondary performed today and the depth that you've been able to build over there and where y'all stand on the back end of this defense compared to a month and a half ago or so?
Yeah, I think you see a pretty good mix of young and old. A couple of the older guys weren't able to go today, but still had some quality reps over the course of spring. So really had a chance for them to evaluate the group. I think pretty accurately. Pat Fields did not participate in spring football at all. That would be the one guy that we didn't have. And then some obviously you lose some guys at certain times in that. So, but I think again you got some quality from the experience standpoint. You got some guys that had opportunity to have some impact last year, maybe in a reserve role that you saw a kind of continuation maybe of their progress from fall, which is good. And then you have a host of young guys, probably more so than I can remember having. Just really between two classes, and it was good to be able to coach. Help me on the year. I guess it's the 20 class to really work with those guys. The unfortunate part of what happened last year, specific for them, it was almost kind of because of quarantines and isolations and that, you didn't have an opportunity to really. Giving them that true indoctrination into what college football is. It was almost you're immediately into game. You're trying to make them almost just playable enough that maybe you could get them into a game, as opposed to really developing those guys. And so if you look at the spring, the 19 class, the 20 class, and then there's 6 or 7 on the defensive side of the ball, mid-year enrollees, all doing their first spring football this year, because the 19s didn't get in 20, and obviously the 20s. So with that, the positive that I will say is having an opportunity to coach the appropriate depth, where you don't have the individuals that we don't see having any impact in fall. All of a sudden, they're your second defense, and that's probably more common than you think as you go through spring. Once you lose your senior class in that. And so coaching the right guys. And so I'm excited about the group. I think it has a chance to be a deep group when all is said and done. But those young guys are going to have to grow up pretty quick.
Appreciate it, Alex.
Sure.
Joe Bettner.
Alex, I wanted to ask you just about, a bit of the pass rush and defensive line in general. It seemed like a lot of pressure on Spencer and Caleb to just kind of make plays in the pocket. What do you make of, I guess, their progress as they get closer and closer to the end of spring?
Yeah, I think, a continuation of the season for those guys that had an impact last fall, and then just a expectation maybe, in both those rooms, whether it's the outside linebacker room with Coach Kane or the inside guys with Coach Tibbs. There is I guess, healthy competition within those rooms for production on a day in and day out basis. You know, the TFLs and sacks. And obviously, we can't take a quarterback to the ground this spring, but that's again that's expectation, extra credit, and so the guys have an understanding of that. I think it once again can be a fairly deep unit as it was. Talking specific about the front as we get to fall and into fall, both on the edges and inside. Very comfortable with a lot of names, and several names that you all have reported on in the past, guys that have played for us, and the Ethan Downs of the world, who as a basically high school senior, had a tremendous fall camp. And a host of other guys too, but a lot of names up there that I think can have an impact.
Thanks, Alex.
Kerry Murdoch.
Alex, how big was this spring? I mean, we all know you didn't get to have a spring last year, but just in terms of, this defense, the culture that you've been trying to build since you got in here, was there maybe a hump that you saw this team kind of getting over where they're kind of taking ownership more of what you guys, believe in as a defense?
Yeah, no, I think it's something that we spent a lot of time in conversation about. And I think we were on here before last time we talked about, kind of why spring, what are you trying to get out of spring? And, really challenge the guys. We mentioned consistency, and we already talked about it, so I won't go into it again, but that's something that as of this morning reminded them again about, being that same guy, a better version of yourself each and every day. But that we have an understanding who we're coaching, well, I hope they show up today type of thing. I hope we get a chance to, see the same IT that we saw the day before, the same Jeremiah Cradell. He had a good practice the day before. Is he going to show up the next day? And so, that was a critical element of things, a more mentally and physically tough unit, and gearing our days towards that, really made a major emphasis in our response. We call it R factor. How do you respond to situations? And with that, also the finishing skills that are so critical to winning football games. But when the offense makes a play, what was our R factor that day? And when we charted in one of our scrimmages, how did we respond the next play after a first down? How did we respond after an explosive? If it was a scoring play, what did that next drive look like? And so that's something that, again, why do you come up with that? You come up with that because you didn't have that last year. Those moments didn't show themselves until fall camp, right? And so having an opportunity to do those things, because what we proved was we can teach football via Zoom. We can teach the game, right? The knowing aspect of things. These guys can certainly make gains from a physical standpoint, athletic standpoint on their own. Well, why 11 guys showing up on the field against another 11 guys? What did we miss? And that what aspect of things? And so much of it in sport is, again, responding to adversity, responding to the positive. Can you come back the next drive after you get a takeaway and still hold yourself to a high standard? Can you have a good 7-on-7 period in practice? And all these things, I bring it up to you because we constantly hammered them on it. How are you going to respond? How are you going to respond? How are you going to respond? 7-on-7 was a bad period. Okay, how are you going to respond? And really, trying to take advantage of those moments that are presented in spring. And I think for the most part, certainly we did. So long-winded, I know, but that was a critical piece for us.
Thanks, Alex.
Sure.
Brandon Drum.
Hey, Alex, thanks for doing this. Caleb Kelly came in today, and he's been through a lot over his time at Oklahoma. He made a couple plays. Can you kind of talk about what he's been through this spring, his rehab, and how far he's come in that situation?
Yeah, I joked when walking off the field. I said, hopefully this is your last spring game, and I mean that in a positive way, But no, he had a really good spring. I mean, getting back playing football again, coming off of 2 knee surgeries and everything he's been through. Certainly that's not easy. But a guy that all our guys look at as that's how you handle yourself in the meeting room. That's how you handle yourself in the weight room. That's how you come to work every single day. and been pleased with, again, showing some production, showing that guy that we think he can be, a guy that he has been in the past, and still in his case, we don't want the same Caleb Kelly from 2 years ago, or and quite frankly, we haven't been able in our time here. Coach Odom hasn't had a chance to coach Caleb Kelly enough, really. But we need a better version of that, and so there's still a bar for him to chase after, and he is. And so, no, it's good to see him run around today. He's done some nice things for us. I think it'll be a critical piece to our defense this fall.
Barry Trammell.
Yeah, Alex, what did you like best about what you saw today? And what did you like least? Those two things.
Yeah, I think, some maybe young guys as the game went, maybe not taking advantage of some opportunities. Every rep is just that, an opportunity, and sometimes you take some of the, call them starters or some of the older guys out, and you get a little bit of levity on the sideline, and you kind of feel the day is slowly coming to an end, but it's you on film now. It's fine that you cheered for the guys that were making plays, but now there's an opportunity for you to go make one. So I'd start there. Maybe, it's one rep, or it's one series, as you go through 15 practices, to make more than it is, probably is inappropriate, but, certainly build it up for some of those young guys too, that this is the first time in the arena with a fan base there. The nerves are going. You had the element of one live tackling, which you only can do so many times over the course of an off season. Then you got, 20, 25,000 people, watching you, family and friends and stuff like that. And so, as you add all those things up, how they, again, going back to that word respond. And so I think some guys certainly did. I think other guys maybe didn't. And so it's just, again, one rep, one drive, something like that we'll continue to coach those guys. I think on the positive side of things, being less conscious of who's on the field with, what you would call like today, it wasn't a one defense or a two defense. And we call it that just so we get organized, but not being, I guess, alarmed as much maybe in the past as to who those individuals were on the field. And so just a number of guys playing in a number of different spots, and you don't feel like, man, we've used the comment in the past, really protect the one group, because the twos aren't going to be what they need to be, but that's at least have something that we can evaluate to see where we're at as a defense. And so that's the thing I'm most excited about. There's several drives out there, quite frankly, as you're calling, and we were obviously very vanilla in terms of what we did, and so was the offense, but that we can't run this call because this guy's in the game type of stuff. And so you're looking out there and you're seeing the Justin Harringtons and you're seeing the Trell McCutcheons. We can call defense, so that pleased with that, more quality across all positions and all depth.
Thanks, Alex.
Sure.
Mason Young.
Yeah, Alex, wanted to ask you about Josh Ellison in particular today. I know he's a guy that you guys have been high on in camp, but just your thoughts about the big play, one of the bigger plays for your defense today, and your impressions of him in today's.
Yeah, Josh has had a tremendous spring. A guy that certainly played for us last year and had quality reps, but really has taken off. I mean, that interior defensive line, we'd like to think it'll continue to have that quality. But the number between Josh Ellison and Corey Roberson, and I'm going to miss names, Jordan Kelly and Perrion Winfrey and Isaiah Coe as a guy just coming in here, and the Ron Stokes, most times, and Coach Tibbs better not get used to it, and hopefully we can continue to have those numbers from a quality standpoint. No, for Josh to do that, you're seeing the speed, you're seeing the athleticism, seeing the physicality, tremendous spring, and you talk about a guy that's elevated his game from fall. Those are the fun ones to mention in spring when you see that jump. Some guys make it, some guys don't, and I think certainly he did.
Let's go to James Hale.
Alex, it looked like, especially in Grimes and Downs, you've added a lot of speed at defensive end. And I'm curious, if you could talk about that a little bit, the speed, and Clayton Smith too on the outside. Then it's safety. You're minus Boyles, you're minus Fields, and yet you played a lot of young guys, and they made plays today. What's your thoughts on those two spots?
Yeah, those edge guys between the field end spot and the boundary rush, you do. IT didn't play today, and Nick played sparingly, and so that gave an opportunity for Reggie Grimes, who played some last year. And the big thing for Reggie is we don't need freshman Reggie. Freshman Reggie was good enough to get on the field, but not make tons of plays. We need him to take that next step, and he's making progress towards that. And then Ethan, as a freshman coming in, probably as far as long as I don't want to put too much on him, but as far as long in the process as you could ever hope for a good, senior or spring of his senior year of high school.
Right.
And especially for those guys up front from a physical standpoint and all that goes into that. And then still the ability from a mental processing standpoint to play fast.
Right.
So been pleased, and Clayton's only getting better. Marcus Stripling out there, moved him to a rush spot, put him in a 2-point stance, and has had a really good spring. Again, another guy that we want more quality ball from, not just ball, not just play, but and believe me, he's had some highlights for us and done some good things. But that consistency element of things, he would be one of the top guys in that category to give that to us. So yeah, excited to once again that I'm not just mentioning one guy. That we can mention several. Same thing at the safety spot. Opportunity with Pat being out this spring. Turner Yale missed a couple days with some stuff. Justin practiced most of the spring. I give a lot of credit to Justin. It was his best spring, without question. And so excited for him that way. As got his played some snaps for us. Got injured last year, and so. That's obviously got to continue in the fall camp as guys are jockeying for reps in that. But Keyshawn Lawrence, he's just a freshman. The interesting part with a transfer, you think of a transfer in the juniors, and he's just a freshman. He's in the same class as so many of those guys going through his first spring. So I've been pleased with him. Jordan Mukes, again, much further along than we anticipated. Still a long way to go. Not even close to what he will be, but been pleased with that. And Kendall Dennis back there as well as a guy that kind of a position change. Bryson Washington starting to play fast. So long way to go. Not ready to say any of those guys are necessarily going to be a 1.5 or 1A on the depth chart, but they certainly made progress this spring.
Alex, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, time for two more. John Hoover and then Josh Calloway.
Alex, I want to ask you about a couple of freshmen today. One on your side of the ball, one on the other side of the ball. Both guys flashed. Bowman on your side, and then how do you defend Mario Williams when he's all over the field like that?
Yeah, no, I'll start with Mario, and there's and then we're fortunate obviously here to have several guys that you can see the respect factor as defensive backs. I mean, they something we'll talk about techniques and stuff like that, and they'll make sure to use whatever technique they think is applicable at that moment to defend that individual that they're in front of, type of deal, which we're still working through that a little bit. But he's one of those guys. I mean, he's talking about Martin. They know who they're lined up on. There's a respect factor there in terms of from a quickness standpoint, speed standpoint, everything else. And he's a highlight waiting to happen, which will be fun in the fall, not so fun for us in spring ball and fall camp. So we turn into fans, but not for several months. And then in Billy, I another freshman, don't want to put too much on him. But I put him in a nickel role. He's really taken off. I mean, just he has speed, he has quickness, he has ball skills. He's a good football player. And from a mental aptitude standpoint, done a tremendous job. And probably one of those guys, maybe midway through spring, a little bit more commitment to technique. Kind of saying that the things I got away with maybe in high school, I'm not going to get away with. And some guys fight that, and some guys will spend a year in a program fighting that, those are the disappointing ones. And we had some guys this last fall, quite frankly, that were kind of in that mode, trying to fight the transition to this level. And so excited to have that, and out of him, and I think that's a good role for him, and he's only going to get better.
Thanks, Alex.
Sure.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, Alex, I just want to ask you, another guy come back from injury, Marcus Hicks. He seemed to show some glimpses today. Just what you thought about his performance this afternoon.
Yeah, Marcus is a tough one. I mean, he's the tough one for the guys coming off an injury is you very rarely get a chance to enhance skill set. You're trying to get back to a level, and try to get back to a certain standard by which you play the game. And so he's the guy that's got to elevate. He's got to enhance from a developmental standpoint. And so the verdict's still out. We haven't seen a lot of football from him yet, quite frankly, and so showed some things today, which is good. I mean, he's shown some things over the course of spring. And he's in a position room with some guys around him, so it's going to be a battle moving forward, but certainly glad to have him healthy and the guy that we get a chance to coach finally coming off that injury.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys. See y'all.